A person was murdered, body was chopped to pieces. All these weird things start happening. Horror was more visual. Horror is a very pure emotion.
Hi there, this is Bhardwaj, and today I am with a very special author, Neil De Silva, author of many books. Neil is here
Hello.
with us in our Vasundhara Ghaziabad studio, and the atmosphere in the studio is a little frantic, and we are all really scared. Not from Neil, but the kind of books that he's written and he's writing. So tell us, Neil, should we be afraid of ghosts?
You should always be afraid of something that you don't know about. So what do you know about ghosts? It depends on that. And what belief you have. If you believe that ghosts are okay, like Casper, they are like sweet, then enjoy them. But it depends on what you think about
the kind
it.
of ghosts you write about.
No, those are not. My ghosts are scary and they will freak you out. So the thing about ghosts that I think is that we are a combination of mass as well as energy. The mass is the body that you see, our corporeal form. And when we die, this is what goes to dust.
So the energy remains.
Goes into ashes. The energy remains.
Okay.
Which in various terms you might call an Atma or soul or whatever. Where does this go?
Good question, yes.
So that is what people who believe in this paranormal science, they believe that this energy is what we term as ghost.
Okay.
That remains with the latent desires,
Okay.
what the human being has. And that is our basic catch line.
Right. That makes sense. But still scary enough. Because we, all those energy, we don't ever hear about the good energies. Only hear about the evil and the bad ones. These are the ones that affect us.
But now that is again contentious because there are many energies that are good. We have positive things happening in our world which are, you could call it as a happy coincidence or something like, things fall into place without the things favoring it.
Okay.
So things happen.
Those could
There
be
were
the
good
workings of the
ghosts.
good angels,
Yes,
you're saying.
yes.
Fantastic.
There are.
Okay, let's talk a little about the latest two books. You've got two books out. That's a lucky coincidence.
Thank you.
So you got some good energies
Yes,
around
yes.
you.
Lot of positive vibes.
Despite the fact that you're writing a lot about the evil ones
Yes.
as well.
Yes. So that is where.
Haunted is a collection of real life incidents, and Jay Alani, who's a paranormal investigator
Yes.
based in Delhi, he has actually been to all these places and written these. You have written the words and experiences out of Jay Alani,
R of Jay Alani.
and they're all real life actual places.
Very much. So
Nothing is
Jay
fictional.
is a paranormal investigator who has visited 60 odd places of India, haunted places, and he keeps visiting them. That is his work that he does. Now he is he's about to go to Andaman and places like the cellular jail is going to. So in haunted, what we did is we took 10 of his locations that he had visited. And we took those locations and we wrote stories about what happened to him there, his personal experiences.
Fantastic.
So Jai is based in Delhi, I am in Mumbai. So what Jai would do is send me audio transcripts of what he felt, and then I would sit in my room, I would shut the lights off, and in a
Shut the lights
completely solitary environment, I would listen to his audio. And Jai has a very mellow voice, like the very deep bass voice. So when he speaks horror, he talks horror, you feel the chills. So I needed to feel that, and I also could visualize Jai in that place. So the things about coincidences that I'm telling you is that when I wrote the stories that Jai had narrated, Jai's narrations were sketchy, like brief. But when I wrote the stories, I had to fill in the blanks. And the thing is that the blanks were filled exactly as it happened with Jai in many of the cases.
Really?
So this is something that we could not explain, we could not fathom.
Wow.
So like, for example, if he's going somewhere in a car, then I would know the color of the car.
Oh, really?
So those kinds of things you cannot explain. Maybe I think we authors are born with a sense of visualization.
Sixth sense,
So
yeah,
maybe somewhere subliminally we get the message that somebody is going to convey to us.
You're trying to logically put it down to logic.
Yes. And this is also happening with another paranormal investigator that I'm working with, Sarbajit Mohanty. He's from Orissa, but now is based in Mumbai. So he has also told me stories. This book we are doing with Rupa. So when he told me these stories, one incident that he just narrated sketchily on audio was that a person was murdered and the body was hidden. So I could actually write, I don't know how it happened, that the body was chopped to pieces and it was hidden in different locations in that field. And then Sarbajit told me this is exactly how it had happened. So this is eerie,
This is eerie stuff.
you cannot explain why.
But not eerie stuff for the readers to buy it and read it. To feel that.
There were a lot of people who want these chills and thrills,
Absolutely, you've got to have it and read it. The next book that is coming out, it's already out. It's by Rupa and it's interestingly titled Yakshini. And if any of you is aware of the mythology of Mahabharata, where Yudhishthir was asked 5 questions by the Yaksh. So it's the same category.
The world is somewhat same for the Yakshinis, but my story is of course a very different story. Yes. So my story is about a Yakshini from Kuber's world, Alkapuri, which is between heaven and earth.
Kuber is the god of abundance.
Yes, and he is a half brother of Ravan.
Okay.
So Kuber is the overlord of all the demigods.
Okay.
So Yakshinis are also under his control. Come on. So there are 36 Yakshinis that are mentioned in our epics. I have made another one. My Yakshini is fictional.
She's not
out of the 36 because they have individual characteristics, and I have made a different one, but the traits are similar. And this Yakshini is punished to be born as a human because of a transgression that she does in Alkapuri. And she comes to the world in the form of a child, Meenakshi, who also happens to be the 7th daughter of a Patil family living in Maharashtra.
7th daughter.
7th daughter. Maharashtra. It is in rural Maharashtra that I've said the story, the first half of it. And as Meenakshi grows, when she reaches the age of 15, all these weird things start happening, which she cannot explain. Like she lives in a male-dominated society. So when the male eye falls on her, because she is exceedingly beautiful, because she has a Yakshini inside her, she grows faster than her age. So when the male gaze starts falling on her, and when the men are uncontrolled, the Yakshini comes out and protects her.
Punishes them.
Yes.
Fantastic.
But then later on, this backfires on Meenakshi. Because Meenakshi is then branded as a witch. So that's I think a lot. That's a lot to give out.
Guys to go and get it. It's not really expensive, only 200 odd rupees. And these 2 books are part of 7 books that Neil has already written.
Yes.
And he started in 2015, which is hell of a journey. 4 years.
It is.
7 books. A lot of screenwriting, a lot of other
Yes.
stuff you've been doing, going to all the fests, all these interviews, and meeting all those producers.
That goes on and on.
How's the journey so far?
So I am very happy with what is happening in my little world at the moment. Before this, I was a teacher. I had a coaching class of my own, and I was the proprietor, come teacher, come everything of it. And we had about 300 to 400 students per year. It was a big institute. And I did it for 18 years. I taught it. This was in one classroom I would keep teaching stuff. And then my students were learning from me. They were getting good marks and they were going ahead in life. And I was the one stuck in that classroom behind that desk. That is when the bug started growing in me, nagging me that. And I was always passionate about writing right from my childhood. Because my dad was a subtitlist. He used to translate Hindi movies into English, and I picked up the tricks of the trade from him. We used to get technical scripts from all these producers, which I would learn, and I would enjoy the stories. So slowly, somewhere, that story ka keeda was there in me.
Being in Mumbai, it's very natural.
Being in Mumbai, it is very natural to have all these things. So then finally in 2014, I decided that I would write.
Enough is enough.
So I wrote alongside my coaching class first. Then Maya's New Husband came out. I released it in 2015 January. It was a self-published book written during the NaNoWriMo month. And the book hit off very well.
It's done very well.
So it was number 1 on Amazon for 18 months or so in the horror category and all. So when that happened, then offers started coming to me. Producers started calling me about adaptation for Maya, and where other things started materializing. That is when I decided that let me focus on one thing at a time. The classes was already going back, so I completely walked away from there, and
Now
that's how I plunged full time into writing, living the dream for an
I won't say
a
highway
creative
to
person.
hell. It does sound like fun.
It is a fun ride.
Hopefully it gets.
Yes, the world has
Juggernaut
changed.
continues and
Because-
keep writing more books on this. Because I have a bone to pick with the probably the publishing industry in India.
Okay. Oh, let's not go there.
Nothing about your
Okay.
publishers, people in general. Even I am a HarperCollins author, so it might affect me, but nothing against them. Overall, that we have been really afraid, and it sounds cliche, that we've been very afraid to deal with the horror stuff in India.
Yes.
Primarily because we're not able to place it in a category or a genre because the distribution happens in genre and category wise.
Yes.
And we haven't had a lot of great horror writers.
We haven't had dedicated
You're
horror
one of the
writers,
first in that I can remember, and you doing well, and the books are coming out. Publishers are supporting you.
Yes, they are.
So there is a market for it, obviously. But why was it not explored before?
I think the reason for that is that no author dedicatedly wrote horror. So they tried horror. A lot of people did horror, but they were also spread out in various other genres. That was one reason. The second reason is that we never had true blue Indian stories. Our horror was always westernized.
Right.
So we always took some element from there and fit it in our groove. Another reason was that horror was more visual. It was considered to be very visual. So that is why the movies worked very well. Ramses made a cult following.
Absolutely.
Vikram Bhatt made a killing, right? So that is what our mentality was. That horror is something to be watched and heard, not to be read.
Okay.
But then why things changed? Because I can talk about myself. One thing that I did was that I brought these stories out, which are proper stories. If you remove the horror element from it, the stories are still readable.
Okay.
They will still be enjoyed. So the horror is something that is riding on my story, not the other way around. So maybe that is one thing. Second thing is that all my books are horror, so I am pursuing it. I am doing a lot with it. There is a third reason, which is the spurt of the OTT platforms that have come in India at the moment. So Netflix and Amazon and Hotstar, they are all looking for new kind of content. And they are all leaning towards horror content because horror is a big draw in the West.
Absolutely.
Another thing that producers think is that horror कम पैसे में बन जाता है. So it's a low budget affair. So that is the reason also why horror is being picked up now. So there were multiple factors, and luckily I was riding this wave in 2015. So it is like I moved into this at the right time.
Right time.
So everything came together. And
Yeah, you're right about having this the right plot and story within the horror setup. I think that's why Stephen King's books are so big.
yes.
Yeah, they have 600 pages, 500 pages. And
Yes.
Never are bored.
You are never bored.
They're
You
just
keep
like
on going because there is something always happening.
Breeze, yeah.
Or you are into the character.
Absolutely. So he spends a lot of time in building
the
and
characters.
setting and locations and plots. And they're so complicated plots, some of them are.
Yes.
Or characters like the one in The Shining. That
The
Jack
conflicted
Nicholson, the conflicted
character.
Jack
completely.
Nicholson has become a cult poster boy of the
Yes,
horror film.
yes.
So story is obviously very important, but I think with the visual media, with the Netflix and the films and the TV, I think it's also about the treatment, and that's why
It is.
you as an author are going to be involved more, and you
Yes.
should be involved more. And I think you will have to go through a time where you have to probably try and change the perceptions of the makers.
That will happen. It is happening
Should be
because people are now more open to listening to horror. This is changing, and we have even in the films. If you see now, we had last year we had Pari, which did very well. We had Tumbad. We had Stree, which was a horror comedy, but it was horror. Yes. So horror is picking up again in literature. So apart from my books, there were some other horror authors who are also doing well. So this thing is now like people are becoming more accepting of the genre. That is what I am seeing. Still, there is a long way to go. Still, we have to come out of the college romance genre, which is the highest selling genre in India. People have to still understand that horror is as mainstream a genre as others.
Absolutely.
It has all the elements that need to be in mainstream pot boilers.
Absolutely. I'm glad you're saying it.
Yes, so that is one of my
You're
mottos.
not making it a formulaic
No,
script.
I don't want to make it a classic, that kind of language, and I don't want to alienate myself from the Indian reader, because I understand what the Indian reader can enjoy,
Right.
understand and enjoy. So that is the zone where I am working in. Neither am I dumbing down, nor am I going more sophisticated than it is required. So it's at that wavelength that I'm working.
Seems to be working fine so far.
It seems to be working fine. It's a balance that cannot be explained.
Absolutely. See, the reason I respect this genre very well is there have been people like even Robert Louis Stevenson was not writing supernatural fantasy. He wrote the World War Z. H.P. Lovecraft.
H.P. Lovecraft, yes.
Henry James.
Yes.
Stephen King is obviously one of the most. He's the
Edgar Allan Poe.
Legend. Edgar Allan Poe, one of the most prominent writers of the 20th century, mentor to great authors.
Yes.
And he was writing and exploring this genre. Mary Shelley, Frankenstein, she was not full-time writing horror.
Yes.
But she created a monster that still lives.
And she wrote Frankenstein when she was 19.
Absolutely. So there are people who were great literary writers.
Yes.
And they have all explored.
And this is classic literature, which is taught in schools and colleges, and there were PhDs done on it, on these things.
Absolutely. So I think this is, I read something about Shirley Jackson, the Haunting Hill House.
Shirley Jackson, yeah.
She said that she wanted to explore this genre to prove herself as an author, because she could do anything else, everything else.
Okay, this reminds me of something that I have a very strong belief in. Horror is a very pure emotion.
Absolutely.
Fear is a very pure emotion.
Emotion based, yes.
Humor, comedy, you can fake laughter.
Can be manipulated, yes.
Love, you can fake love.
Yeah.
Every other thing. Thrill, you can pretend that okay, you are thrilled. But fear will show on your face only if you are genuinely frightened. So out of the navrasas, I think it is the most
easily accessible.
And you cannot manipulate it. You cannot tamper with it. That is why writing horror is tough.
It is.
Because a lot of people ask me, how do you evoke fear with your words?
So the character has to be real enough to feel the fear.
Yes, and it has to be relatable.
Yeah.
If I write a horror which is set somewhere in a country that nobody has heard of, and the character is following a lifestyle that doesn't gel with us, then people are not going to get afraid of it because they don't know that lifestyle.
It won't be evocative enough.
Yes. So the thing about horror is that you have to be able to place yourself in those shoes. That is when you will be really frightened.
Sounds interesting. Right, so let's wrap it up, Neil. Thanks a lot for your time. I have a last question for you, which is actually asking on behalf of the readers. Should we be afraid of reading horror stories? And because horror as a genre, this is what we've been talking about. Horror as a genre, as a category, has got not a very respectful.
Yes, kind of
So
impression.
like under the mattress kind of books, because of the way in our culture it has been represented. So are you working towards regaining the respect for horror, and what is your message to
We should, because that is one thing that I have been always maintaining and saying, that horror is a very rich genre in itself. It has all the elements that need to go into a good storytelling. The format itself is good. And one thing that saddens me, and this brings me to it, on Amazon India horror, if you go to the list of the bestsellers, on Amazon India horror itself, within the first 20 or whatever the list is, you will find only 2 or 3 Indian names. The rest of the names are Stephen King, Neil Gaiman, Dean Koontz. This is not true of any other genre.
Absolutely.
Only in horror, why is it so that we do not have Indian authors in Amazon India horror list? So that is something that has to be rectified. So I would like to tell the readers that a lot of us Indian horror authors are now coming out. There is me, there are so many others. Explore Indian horror, because it is a genre that needs visibility, and we do not want Western authors to rank on our list.
Yeah, let's
Be Indian by Indian.
Be
No?
Indian by Indian. Made in India. These are both made in India. Yakshini by Rupa and Haunted by Penguin. Penguin every.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Thank
Neil,
you so
for
much,
your
Harsh,
time,
for having me
and
here.
good luck for the Lit Fest.
Yes, thank
and
you.
probably see you around next time.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, videos.